BioShock plus Dishonored with a little bit of Groundhog's Day sprinkled in. Sounds like the ideal combination for a fantastic game, and that was the thought on my mind as I entered last week's preview session for Prey, the newest title from developer Arcane Studios and publisher Bethesda. The game doesn't follow that aforementioned recipe exactly, but it might be okay because Prey seems to be all about defying expectations. What's going on, guys and girls? I'm Ghost Robo, and last week I had the privilege to play the first 90 minutes of Prey. Now, this is not the original Prey, nor the original vision for Prey 2, which was much more bounty hunter Mass Effect adventure style. Here you have a reworked Prey that bears a lot of resemblance to Dishonored with unique twists and tweaks of its own. I'm going to do my best to avoid spoilers because I feel that the early surprise into this game is worth you experiencing on your own, and I would not want to ruin any of the pull the rug out from under you moments for any of you. I even asked lead designer Ricardo Berry if there would be more gasp-inducing instances throughout the plot, and he assured me that there would be, and that's a great thing because I feel that the story and the overall setting of Prey is its strongest feature. Now, most of the game takes place on the space station Talos 1, and I will get into all the nitty-gritty details of said environment. But first, you begin waking up as Morgan Yu. You can pick male or female, doesn't matter, and you begin your journey. Things start to get weirder, and I won't go into exactly why, but eventually you end up on said space station, and it is a really pretty and very fleshed out, fully realized world. I love the play space here because it feels natural, it feels legitimate. And I was talking to Ricardo Bear about what other environments we would see, because most of the demo, most of the first hour and a half is in offices and medical wings, and where else would we go? And he was cool enough to point out some different spaces that you'd see, but rest assured, many of these are what you'd want. You know, where the crew lived, where the passengers ate, and what happened over here, and basically every facet of a space station is covered, and it's basically a floating skyscraper, so that's a lot of ground to cover, and the game looks to be about 16 to 20 hours, and I hope it goes really unique and fun places during that time. But back to the meat and potatoes, this game is a lot like Dishonored, and I was expecting from the trailers something more akin to BioShock, a little bit more action-heavy, a little bit more fluid, but this is definitely an exploratory, pick up things, read things, find things, do a little combat style game, like I said, very much in the vein of Dishonored. And that's not a bad thing, but it does have a slower pace, a more methodical pace. I've heard people compare it to System Shock, and that seems to be more appropriate than BioShock here, because while you are whacking away with a wrench, I felt that the combat was definitely not my favorite part of Prey. Throughout the demo, I picked up a shotgun, I picked up a wrench, and a glue gun, which allowed me to fire insta-freeze foam that I could use to either entomb targets or build staircases for me to ascend. And the environment needs that because there's a lot of broken staircases, there's a lot of sunken in floors, a lot of openings and ceilings, things you're going to want to explore. But it is a very, very fun world to look at, and there is so much lore tucked into every corner. You've got emails, and you've got notes, and you've got a way to track employees, even if they're dead, and you have all sorts of stations to interact with, and ways that you can eventually carve your own path through Talos 1. It is very heavy on building out your skills, which are called neuromods here, and they focus on 3 distinct tiers: engineer, scientist, and security, all of which allow you to open up different areas of the ship and interact with said ship in different ways. So if we start with engineer, this focuses on things like repairing machinery within the ship. It focuses on modifying your weaponry. It focuses on increasing your stamina and your resource yield, which we'll get to in a second. Scientist is much more about hacking, and the hacking minigame here is actually fun. It's kind of a marble pinball style thing that is unique from other hacking minigames, and I found quick enough but also fun enough to repeat over and over again. Scientist also is about food, health item bonuses, and then security deals with weapon damage, your maximum health, a slow down focus, slow-mo mode, and stealth. But they made sure to let you know, and it shows in the game, that you can play and approach this however you want. Early on, there's a chance to find a keycard and go through a door, or open up an overhead vent and crawl right past the locked mechanism. And that's basically what this game is about, carving and choosing your own path through the world. Combat is required in instances. There are these weird alien creatures called mimics that will come at you. They can mimic other items, and eventually, I'm told, we will get powers like this for ourselves. I saw only the neuromod human abilities, but eventually, it seems that there is some sort of fusion where you can equip alien powers as well. Cannot wait for that. I think that will open this game up and double its fun. But anyhow, these mimics can look like a trash can. I think the one we've seen in a trailer is a coffee mug. And before you know it, it is a little black goo monster trying to claw at your face. Or whatever those things are. Tentacles, tendrils, mystery monstrosities. Fighting them with the wrench is not the most fun, but it gets the job done. Or you can use the more effective and methodical method of shooting them with the glue gun and then whacking them with the wrench to crush their now encased bodies. I also came up across phantoms, who are humans who have been taken over by aliens, and they are a whole lot tougher. They fire projectiles, they can whack you down in what felt like one hit if you're not careful, and they move across and around the space station with a lot more normalcy of a traditional enemy. I thought that those guys were more interesting to fight for me than the mimics, because looking down at the ground and hitting with the wrench was not the greatest. And that's where my greatest concern actually lies with the game, is will the combat evolve and be more fun? The lead designer was telling us about a large monster that is moving throughout the space station, and he is just in there, and you'll come across him randomly, right? Which is very cool. But I hope that we have unique weaponry to fight him. The shotgun itself didn't feel the greatest, but maybe most of your power comes from those eventual alien powers, and this is more a game of manipulation than it is mowing aliens down. That's fine, because collecting stuff was very cool. There's even a recycler machine where you can break down useless items and turn them into these little cubes of quality. They are resource cubes, and it's a really, I found, a cute visual representation of boiling things down. I felt like I was doing some very organic, all-natural cooking and taking my dishes down to these little pill forms. And then you can put said cubes inside of a fabricator and make stuff out of it, whether you want to make items or weaponry or whatnot. And again, this is all supported by your neuromods that can help increase resource yield, or can help increase your overall health, things like that. So it very much seems to have a Metroidvania style progression, and there's even a tooltip that says, hey, Talos 1, the main lobby of the space station, you can return to it at any time and complete side objectives. So you'll be picking up side quests along with your main quest, and those can be completed now, and some of them maybe cannot be completed now, so you'll need to return. There were definitely a lot of locked big doors that seemed to lead to other areas. And again, given the size of this structure, I imagine we'll be going to a variety of levels, if you will, or at least different departments and halls of Talos 1. I think the coolest part of Prey, though, is the story, and it's really hard to speak on without giving it away, so I will do my best. Something is amiss on Talos 1. And the way that they convey that to you is very intriguing. This is where sort of that Groundhog's Day bit comes in, and it is a really cool narrative device that I found incredibly engaging. And for me, that is my biggest motivation to move through Prey. I want to see what is going on and how they utilize this unique style of storytelling to really convey the story, but also confuse the player and eventually, hopefully, have some awesome reveals. It does bear similarity to BioShock in that way, a story that could go in kind of that direction, one where what you see is not what it seems, and I hope that that is fleshed out to its fullest extent. But it's also interesting just to be in this world. It has a very cool mood and atmosphere, and for me, the identity of Talos 1 speaks to me much more than the worlds of Dishonored. And I love the fact that we're in this futuristic space with these creepy aliens, but also with this corporation overarching structure, right? This is not, a dead space where we're looking to go and mine, or we're looking to find some marker, but instead it's like a floating Google, which is very unique, and I think it could lead to some very interesting encounters and occurrences if you're willing and wanting to dive into said lore. Now, I did try to read quite a bit. I did try to look through a bunch, and apparently none of it is mandatory, but all of it just adds value. And I do wonder if any side quests will be tied to the knowledge gain throughout the many emails that I was reading. It is a very, again, pick up things and acquire things and modify things and menu driven game, at least in terms of your inventory and your character, and making sure that you pick and follow the skill trees that you find important. So right off the bat in the lobby, there is a machine that can be repaired, and there is a door that is locked. You grab a neuromod, you cannot get both hacking and repair, so you have to pick one. And there's different levels of these skills, so you'll need to invest more time in your brain with these neuromods. And there seems to be many nuances to the character progression beyond the neuromods. I also saw suit chipsets, scope chipsets, weapon mods, and more. I only got to play the first 90 minutes, about 60 minutes of story, and then 30 minutes of just exploring around. And some of it felt a little clunky. I wasn't sure exactly if it was just a frame rate issue, or maybe the controls are not as tuned as they should be, but I did feel that there was a little sense of clunkiness to the overall control. But again, maybe it was my expectation of something more fluid than what actually was in my hands. But I did like a lot of the exploration, and you are jumping and you are using little like side ledges and trying to find ways with this glue gun to extend your normal jump, or extend your reach, and extend into areas and zones that you couldn't previously access. And the Talos one is in varying degrees of disarray. So some areas, some sectors seemed fully functional and fine. Some seem completely carved apart. Some seem dead on arrival. Some are blocked off. And I think the little anecdotes that you uncover visually throughout the world is where this game will succeed at being memorable. That's always something very cool in games, when you can find little instances of story that aren't necessarily spoken, but are just told through what you see and experience in front of you. And I hope that exploration is pivotal to the progression in this game. I hope that there are more difficult and more dynamic differences depending on what you choose to focus in. I'm sure eventually you can grab majority of these perks, but I do hope that if you go the hacking route, you will have to play and interact with the world in a different way than if you went the engineer route. And I wonder how much Metroidvania there is in terms of backtracking to unlock different doors, and what all that will gain for your Morgan U. Is it just going to be more neuromods, currency, what? And how the whole recycler and replicator system, how that all plays out. What breaking things down and building things, how much of an ecosystem is there, and how heavily does that factor into the full adventure. I did like hearing about bigger and more badass aliens. It doesn't sound like there's going to be boss fights in the sort of strict Zelda sense of like locking a room and fight this named creature, but I like the idea of more random encounters with creepy aliens and sort of stumbling upon things. And I hope that you also stumble upon more moments that wow you, and more moments within the storyline that do what the first 15 minutes does, because that was a holy crap moment right off the bat, and I loved it. And I hope that it's not all blown at the onset. And like I said, Bear did tell me that there would be more of those moments within the story as you proceed, and I hope that turns out to be the case. So I think there's a lot to look forward to here, a lot to like. I think the final package is just brimming with potential, and I hope to see that fully realized. Like I said, the combat is not as fluid as I expected or wanted, and there seemed to be a little bit of clunkiness, but that can be overlooked with a very remarkable storyline and an environment that is consistently exciting to engage with. And that's the setup that Talos 1 begins with, and that's the setup that the game and Morgan U begins with, and I hope to see it just play out to its potential for the rest of the game. Like I said, defying expectations, and that's super clear with the plot and the storyline, and I hope it's also the case with the gameplay and with the weapons you eventually acquire and the alien powers that you assimilate into your system. I think the neuromod idea is really cool, and I love seeing like you're actually changing your brain to add these abilities, and just where does that go? What is the extent of that? And if you're a fan of Dishonored, if you're a fan of exploratory games, if you're a fan of games with maybe a little bit more of a methodical pace that have that RPG juiciness in there, and you want to explore a space station that is full of secrets and full of stuff underneath the surface that I don't want to spoil, and I think Prey may be for you. It releases in early May, and I, for one, am excited to see where it goes. I'm more curious about this than many other titles because it seems like it's got a few cards up its sleeve, and I want to know what those are. I want to see all that Prey has to offer, and I'm really, really excited to play the final version. I will be putting out a long-form playthrough of my time, a gameplay, so if you want to see that, definitely check it out. I'll put a link once that's up, and we will go through the entirety of my experience. But for now, let me know in the comments below what you're most excited for with Prey, and if you're planning on picking it up come the month of May. I hope to see a lot of you on Talos 1 once that time does arrive, because I gotta find out what is really going on beneath the surface. Until that time though, guys and girls, thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope it was informative and also interesting and filled you in on, like I said, the first few hours of Prey. Until next time though, drink so much. Thanks again. I love you all, and we will see you all later.